from clean energy, we now steer into another critical domain, green mobility. This session focuses on the critical intersection of transport and air quality. As India moves towards e-mobility, smart infrastructure, and last-mile connectivity, the decisions we make now will determine the air our children breathe tomorrow. I request the speakers to please join me on stage as I read out your introductions. Moderating this session is Mr. Suyash Gupta, a national voice for clean transport fuels and sustainable mobility policy. Our speakers for this panel are Mr. Siddhartha Verma, Civil Servant, Indian Railway Traffic Service, Ministry of Railways, driving innovation in the public transport system. We also have Mr. Jayesh Shalar, CMO, Blue Energy Motors, leading India's move towards zero-emission trucking. We will shortly be joined by Mr. Uday Narang, Chairman, Anglian Omega Group, transforming green logistics and fleet electrification. We have Sir here with us. Can we please have a huge round of applause for all our panelists? Over to you, Mr. Gupta, to moderate the discussion.
Thank you so much, Vaishnavi, and a very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, it's a privilege for me to moderate this very vital session on the future of green mobility, a subject that lies at the very heart of India's journey towards sustainable development. I'd first like to thank Kamalji and IHW Council for their continued commitment for organizing such insightful dialogues. And we've seen those wonderful videos. And thank you for inviting me to contribute, Kamalji. In this session, we'll explore not just the transition to electric vehicles, but also the broader canvas of clean mobility, including public transport, alternative fuels, and how innovation, infrastructure, and policy must align for a better tomorrow. In the interest of time, I'll jump on to our session quickly. The way we've structured this is we'll have opening remarks from each of our stellar panelists, and then moving on to our panel discussions where I have some questions prepared for them. To begin with, let me start with you, Uday. And Mr. Uday Narang is a global business leader and a clean tech entrepreneur who transitioned from successful international finance career to founding Omega Seiki Mobility. Did I pronounce it rightly? Good. One of India's leading electric vehicle manufacturers. Since returning to India in 2015, he's been focused on creating sustainable, data-driven EV ecosystem that challenges both environmental concerns and driver income outcomes.
Well, first of all, great to be here. And, it's a very, very special day, World Environment Day. So really, I'm really excited to be here. I got into this journey. I leave, I'm an ex-Wall Street banker, about 30 years in US and Europe. And to come back, what drives me every day now almost for the last decade is to make a change. Green energy and sustainability is very core to my heart. 31 of the most polluted cities in the world, unfortunately, in our country. I'm really, we've got a great thing happening in this country. We've got, we're definitely going to be the third largest economy, and we're going to be a very, very powerful country. But I think what's extremely environment is important. हम लोग सब कहते हैं, I've picked up Hindi in the last few years, so I always use an opportunity to speak. But हम लोग सब कहते हैं भारत माता की जय. But अगर अपनी माँ को ही प्यार नहीं करेंगे, so I think the environment is like our mother. It's extremely important कि हम इसको देखें. OSM मैंने start करी थी. Obviously Omega has been involved for 56 years in this country. हम steel, automotive parts, is the length and breadth of in automotive automobile industry. So about 10 years ago, I decided कि हमने कुछ एक change लाना था. So we got into EVs. तब EVs were not so, उस time पे, बजाज जी भी नहीं थे और महिंद्रा भी आया था और पियाजो बहुत कम लोग थे. आज 10 वर्षों के बाद इस country में everybody is now in this EV, journey. आप देखते हैं कि दिल्ली में 2027 के बाद उन्होंने clearly कह दिया है कि even CNG is out. It's it's going to be electric. There's so much happening. You just, Qureshi ji yesterday and the Department of Heavy Industries talked about how international players can come into the EV sector. Every state knows that हमें clean or green environment के लिए काम करना पड़ेगा. Look, it's not just EVs, it's hydrogen, it is alternate fuels, it's hybrids. Technology plays a big role. I think Make in India plays a big role because आप EVs की बात करेंगे तो थोड़ा बहुत rare earths की बात आएगी. China controls that. उसमें भी थोड़ा सा भी game चल रहा है. लेकिन the journey, this environment, this country, all of you and your kids and आपके parents and grandfathers को एक clean or green India का they deserve it, right? And I think it is one of the most important, ये बहुत ही important agenda है, for the future. OSM was started. Part of that, we built OSM for that. We are one of the major players in the three-wheeler sector. We're doing it in the truck sector. I think you're going to see a huge change. I mean, जितनी नम green plates आपको नजर आने लगी हैं, हमारे not just tier 1, but tier 2, 3, 4 cities में, that's a great, step. अभी तो लोग यहाँ इंडिया में कहते हैं ट्रेलर अभी स्टार्ट नहीं हुआ तो फिर मूवी. अभी तो ट्रेलर की बात छोड़ो, अभी उससे भी पीछे हैं, बहुत काम बाकी है. But in the last 4, 5, 6 years, we have come so far. All the big players, the Taras, the Mahindras, the Bajajes, everybody's in this game, the TVSs. And I think, what we at least have achieved, I started as a startup, obviously can't say a startup, we, come from an industrial background, but really built products for the future. But India में environment की बात तब होगी जब TCO, total cost ownership, that's an extremely important. इंडिया में हम लोग सब बात करते हैं कि हम एनवायरनमेंट की परवाह करते हैं, बट लेकिन इंडिया में हम अपनी जेब को पहले देखते हैं. तो हमें वो प्रोडक्ट्स बनाने पड़े जो टीसीओ मॉडल में काम करते हैं, जिसके अंदर रिलायबिलिटी होगी, सर्विस होगी. लुक, इन दिस जर्नी, लेट्स बी ऑनेस्ट, अगर आप नंबर्स देखो, आइस के व्हीकल्स में फायर और ईवी के व्हीकल्स में फायर बहुत मिनिमल है, बट मीडिया में ज्यादा बोला जाता है. आप डेटा से देखिए, आप उसके बाद प्रोडक्ट भी इंप्रूव हुए, क्वालिटी भी इंप्रूव हुई है, एंड you'll see a lot more happening. I'm hoping, I'm a big Martin Luther King fan. His favorite speech back in the early 60s was about, I have a dream that this country, this Bharat Mata, is a cleaner, greener country. And honestly, all of you, आप सबको, especially the Nari Shaktis, have to be part of this, because 48% of the population is them, and if we don't take them along, we're never going to make this country strong. So I hope all of you not just come to the conferences, but make sure you take it back home, you take it back to everybody else. And if you ever want to join this journey, Abhi, I'm an old man, but maybe for the next 50 more years I'll be on this journey. I'm happy for all of you to join us, but make sure, put Bharat Mata first. Thank you very much.
Great, Uday. Tremendous. I must say, I'm extremely impressed with your Hindi. Great Hindi, and you rightly said, Bharat Mata ki jai. And we always talk about Mother Earth, and in Hinduism and in most of the religions, it's Janani Janma Bhumischa Swargadapi Gariyasi. And to your other comment which you made, I link it to one of the comments I made in the earlier session. I was watching a Jeff Bezos session, and the moderator asked Bezos about Plan B. So he said, no, I don't have a Plan B. Plan B is that stick to Plan A. So sustainable mobility needs to be the plan. It needs to be our only plan.
I think you're absolutely right, and I'll let the others speak. But I think the only way this will work in this country, and I keep gonna say it, हमने सब कुछ try कर लिया sir, लेकिन it's the TCO. We came up with a 1-ton truck. अगर वो Tata Ace के equivalent pricing में नहीं है, तो logistic players नहीं use करेंगे. Right? So I think you have to bring sustainable, but you have to build that pricing and that sustainability to grow in this journey. That's very important.
Absolutely. And in my experience of almost 20 plus years in the public space, I've seen no policy will ever work without government, I'll say whether it's electric, whether it's fuel, any fuel, every alternate fuels comes at a significant inconvenience per se. And this is where the policymakers need to step in. They need to subsidize not just for 1 or 2 years, announce FAME 1, FAME 2. They need to do it consistently until the time the key objectives are met. Because the larger goal is, of course, clean air, but it's also energy security. So great points, Uday. I'll move on to our next panelist, Mr. Siddhartha Verma from the Ministry of Railways. Mr. Verma is a civil servant from the Indian Railway Traffic Service, currently serving with the Ministry of Railways. He works at the intersection of passenger and freight logistics, urban mobility, and infrastructural sustainability. He has led key operations in key regions, including Varanasi and Lucknow, and played a major role in special initiatives like the Ram Mandir, Pran Pratishtha, and of course, the very recent Mahakumbh 2025. Siddharth, to you.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Namaskar, Bharat Mata Ki Jai. It's a great privilege to be on this panel of innovators. I think Uday really kicked it off very well. Green mobility is not reflective of just our climate ambition or the issue of climate change, but it will define how India will work, India will grow, and India will move in the 21st century. In the past few years, we have, made leaps and bounds progress. EV sales last year almost touched, I think, 2 million, led by two-wheeler and three-wheeler sales. We have almost doubled our charging infrastructure. Electric buses are running in more than 70 cities now in India. So we have made a lot of progress. But the challenge remains that the penetration of these technologies, penetration of EVs and alternate fuels is still, there's still much to be desired in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So there's a need of change of perspective as well. While individual innovations, isolated solutions are very important, but we also have to look at creating an ecosystem, creating a whole system which promotes these innovations. Secondly, there's a need to shift from just singled out solutions to public transport as well. We have focused a lot on EV ownership, but we are not really focusing a lot on public transport. Secondly, we are not focusing a lot on how these systems integrate within a city. Let's talk about Indian Railways, because I belong to this organization. There's a lot that Indian Railways has done for sustainability. Railways itself, even before taking any measures for sustainability, it is one of the greener options of transport, because there's a lot of bulk transport that happens in railways, both with passengers and goods. So the per capita impact on emissions is quite low in railways. Secondly, railways has completed more than 90% electrification at breathtaking speed. Let me tell you the amount of investment that has gone in, the amount of effort that has gone in. We have done more electrification in the past 5 years than we have done in maybe the past 2 decades. So electrification, we have done really well. Secondly, we have also experimented with hydrogen fuel cells. We have started off with the heritage routes. The pilot project is starting in the Jind-Sonipat route, and subsequently we'll go to other heritage routes as well. So we are still not going to implement it in the normal passenger routes, but we are going to do it in heritage routes. Secondly, the freight corridor has come up in a great way, even though it is not using any alternative fuel. But when you put a lot of cargo from road to rail, it has a lot of impact on emissions. And it also reduces congestion on your normal rail lines. So apart from this, we are coming up with many different things, using solar energy in a lot of stations. We are using energy efficient locomotives that have regenerative braking. So there's a lot of effort that is going in, but there's a lot of ground to cover as well. Because most of these solutions are, isolated. A lot of people are trying different things in this country right now. My message to you and the thing which I want to discuss on this panel is that how can we bring up a policy infrastructure in this country? The ecosystem needs to be there, because most of the innovative solutions that we are bringing in green mobility, they have to be implemented on the ground in cities. And our urban governance has not yet caught up to these new things. In a city, if you go to many developed countries, what you need is integrated transport systems. You get out of the metro, you have something available there. You get out of your car, you know where to park it, you get on the metro, you park your car near the river, there's a streamer service available there. So how well these systems integrate with each other is extremely important. So this integration will bring about important change in the way people look at their logistics needs. So looking at sustainable transport is essential, but along with that, we have to also look at bringing cheaper mobility solutions, bringing accessibility of these mode of transports that are there, and empowering our city and state governments to actually give space to these innovations. So thank you so much. Let us bring this conversation forward.
Thank you, Siddhartha. I mean, amazing points. And the point you referred to creating an ecosystem and to ensure last mile connectivity. And that's key. Irrespective of the solution we bring in, last mile connectivity is key. And while on you, give us some background of what's happening in Jeans Sonipat line you mentioned.
So we are retrofitting diesel engines with hydrogen fuel cells. So, hydrogen fuel cells, even though I think Uday would know more about it, but in private vehicles, it has not really kicked off the way it should have. But there are a lot of applications of green hydrogen in industrial and in mass transport. So we are having a pilot project of running these heritage lines by retrofitting diesel engines with hydrogen fuel cells. So
it's really a really great step. I mean, we've been working on hydrogen vehicles. The ecosystem hasn't been set up, but I think if you look at what's happening in China and some other countries, they're far ahead. And I think this is a great step. Look, I think one thing is great, to see even the railways, take that. It's a very big country. I've learned one thing, and when I came back after 30 years back to this country, my mom said one thing. अगर इंडिया में रहना है तो complain मत करो. Work towards building a better system. So my point is that, we can take this, you're talking about, the metro lines, the buses, the streamers, we've got to look at international success, but we have to really, really accommodate according to India. Right? हम लोग ये नहीं सोच सकते कि ज़ूरिक में ऐसे चल रहा है और सिंगापुर में ऐसा चल रहा है. This is not Singapore, and they don't have that 1.4 billion and I don't even know how many more hundreds of million there. So I think there's a lot going on, and the cities continue to grow. But we've got to, and I also want to say one more step. I don't think it's only Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore. We've got to go tier 2, 3, 4 cities. हम लोग वो 2-4 cities में ही लोगों को ऊपर उठा के पूरी country को साथ लेके चलना है. तभी बनेगी बात, in my view.
Absolutely, Uday. And the kind of messaging, the impact is not just about this line. It's about the messaging which goes across. So thank you, Siddharth. I'd now like to invite Jayesh, Mr. Jayesh Shaler, the Chief Marketing Officer of Blue Energy Motors. Mr. Shaler is a senior marketing and strategy expert with nearly 2 decades of experience in the commercial vehicle industry. As a CMO of Blue Energy Motors, he is driving the push for low-emission LNG trucks in India, particularly for heavy-duty freight segment, an area with significant carbon impact. And he has had a very rich history with Mahindra, Tata Motors, and so much more. So over to you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Suyash. That was a very kind introduction. Thank you for the organizers for having this panel and the distinguished panelists. I think excellent views from Mr. Narang and Siddharth also over here. Let me focus on the space that I come from, that is heavy duty trucking, and from cities and urban, let's move to highways. And it is said that if you can't measure it, then it doesn't improve, right? If you can't measure something, then you can't improve it, right? That's how it's said. So let me try and get a different perspective, and let me see if we can. So all of us, someone mentioned about, this being a digital citizenship in the earlier panel. And if you look at, if we had an app on our phone where we could measure the carbon impact of every action that we have, right? And we had this in previous sessions where most of the speakers spoke about what is the carbon impact that every action has got, right? We had the example from Agni Moksha, which was mentioned, and electricity in the earlier panel by Professor Rihan, right? This invisible impact is what heavy duty trucking is all about, from our morning coffee to the food on plates or the deliveries that we get from, our e-commerce suppliers. Everything actually has an impact, and heavy duty trucking is this invisible impact that is there, continuously through our lives. We just don't realize it. And if I have to put a number to this, then, there are about around 4 million heavy duty trucks today in India, right? And this number is only going to grow. Maybe at a CAGR of 7%, in next decade, you will see about 8 million of these trucks, mostly dominated by diesel now, right? And let me give you a statistic around that. An average heavy duty truck covers almost 1 lakh kilometers in a year. And covering this distance, it emits about 100 tons of CO2. Now you can just multiply that impact and see what is the kind of emission that is happening on highways. Now, if you look at the total automotive population on Indian highways today, these heavy trucks contribute to only 2% of that population. But if you look at the pollution impact they have got, they contribute to almost 40% of this pollution, right? And that's a huge number. So that's impacting our lives more than we realize, because they're not seen on the cities. They're not visible to us because they are on the highways day and night. 68% of the freight in India is actually moved through highways, right? And this is done by heavy duty trucks. Now, what is the solution to going green? Right, Mr. Narang mentioned about TCO. TCO needs to make sense. And today we know that the cost of technology is high when it comes to electrification. But I believe that India does not have a single pathway. There's a multi-pathway that goes, there's going to be an energy mix, because you need to give a consumer what makes sense. For example, in heavy duty trucking, the average distance that a truck might travel would be from, say, Delhi to Chennai, or, from Kolkata to Mumbai. Now, if you actually go electric with that, today the heaviest electric trucks have got a range of about 150-200 kilometers, and they have a payload disadvantage. Having said all that, if you had to develop a charging infra throughout, the charging downtime and everything would not make immediate economic sense, and therefore the TCO. And that is why you will not see adoption. And that's discouraging for the system, and we should not go that way. What we should do is, we need to find a use case for every technology, because every technology has that use case. So what we see is LNG, for example, it knocks off almost 30% of CO2, it knocks off 70% of NOx, and it knocks off almost all particulate matter. So that's the impact that's there, right, per kilometer. Blue Energy Motors has been pioneering this space. We have almost 800 LNG trucks today plying on Indian highways, covered more than 5 million kilometers, knocked off almost 15,000 tons of CO2 if equivalent diesel trucks had to do this, right? Now, these trucks have a range of almost 1,500 kilometers with a double tank, 2,400 kilometers. So they can go. We started Blue Energy Motors when there was just one LNG station in India. Today there are 26. So the ecosystem is building. And therefore, the long haul, the immediate impact that vehicles can have on pollution, heavy duty vehicles, is through transitioning to LNG in an immediate, because we have that impact. Meanwhile, the charging infrastructure builds up. We need to get in innovative solutions such as battery swapping, right? That's something, that is going to address the charging downtime. We need to get into battery as a service. Then battery becomes a fuel, as any other fuel that is there, and takes away the risk of ownership of battery from the consumer, and that's going to lead adoption. So unless the OEMs come forward and give innovative solutions, I think the adoption of these trucks is going to be a challenge, right? So I think the policymakers need to factor this into policy. There has to be consistency on policy making, so that the OEMs also get invested into those kind of technologies, and that helps the overall ecosystem.
Absolutely, Jayesh. I mean, couldn't agree with you more. Every stakeholder, as I mentioned, has a limited firepower. We have limited bandwidth, and the optimization of resources need to be in place. Wow, I mean, you mentioned 4 million heavy-duty trucks on Indian roads, mostly diesel, out of which 800 have been converted to LNG. Now, when you say converted, Jayesh, is it about conversion from diesel to LNG, or it's a fresh build from, it's the news?
These are fresh build trucks. Conversion as a strategy is not the most efficient strategy, because essentially the diesel engines are of a different nature. They are, not spark ignition engines as the LNG are. They're two different fuel ecosystems. So these are freshly manufactured trucks which are being inducted and in lieu of the diesel trucks which would have otherwise done these operations. So these are 800 new LNG trucks, and we are adding almost 50 to 100 trucks every month. So that's how the population is growing.
That's interesting. And who are the key? I mean, the OEMs is it the fleet owners, or you're supplying to the OEMs who are in fact reselling it?
That's an interesting question. And I'll take a leaf out of Mr. Narang when he said the TCO should make sense, and that's where what is driving LNG. Now, if you look at LNG, it's 2x the cost of a normal diesel truck, but it delivers you 30% better fuel efficiency per kilometer as compared to a diesel. Additionally, on a retail basis, LNG is 10% cheaper to diesel. So that's 40%. At 1 lakh kilometers a year, there's a 35 lakh fuel bill that any transporter has to actually bear every year. 35 lakhs is the fuel bill that every average transporter has per truck. Now, if you take 40% efficiency, you're just knocking off 15 lakhs from his fuel bill. And at a 2x cost, which is almost 25 lakhs, it translates to almost 25 lakhs. This is 2.5 years payback. So the TCO works, and that's how we are seeing adoption from the transporters. So the fleet owners are coming forward, the companies are coming forward. So we have almost 23 Fortune 500 companies where LNG trucks are applying through transporters who are actually adopting to clean tech, getting a better TCO than diesel, and also going green and knocking off TCO.
And are there any government incentives available for?
There's no incentive.
Without any incentives?
Without any incentive.
That's great to hear. That's great to hear.
I want to say one thing. I mean, Jayesh, been on the game myself for quite a bit of time. And you talked about FAME 1, 2. I was a big part of that. Now it's called PMIE Drive. I'll be honest, गवर्नमेंट की वेट करोगे ना तो बहुत लंबी लाइन है, बहुत लंबी लाइन है. मैं बहुत रियलिस्टिक बोलता हूँ, थोड़ा सा कई बार आप लोगों को पसंद नहीं आएगा, बट मैं हर टाइम तो हमने इस जर्नी में क्या देखा है. आई मीन यू आर एब्सोल्युटली राइट, द कंट्री इज big enough. We've got to a stage where the 2, 3 and 1 ton, maybe up to 3 ton trucks are making TCO models work. I've worked on bigger trucks. We are working on 15-minute fast on buses. You can do 700 to 1,000 kilometers if you put fast chargers, but it doesn't have to be EV. It can be hydrogen. It can be, newer technologies. Honorable Transport Minister जहाँ भी जाते हैं कहते हैं मैं इस vehicle में चल रहा हूँ जो hydrogen का है, कोई ethanol का है. So देखिए, this is a very wide country, and कोई कुर्ता पहनता है तो कोई शेरवानी पहनता है तो कोई कुछ पहनता है. So I think everything works. You've just got to make sure that you can be able to get scale. I didn't know Blue Motors. I mean, sometimes I learn everything. To say that you've put 800 trucks and you've put 26 stations is very commendable, right? I'm sure it's not been an easy journey. It's been a very tough journey. But I'll tell you, we need soldiers like you guys. We've got that frontline soldier. वो एक छोटी सी सैलरी में आपके लिए बंदूक की गोली लेता है. वो तो ये नहीं सोचता ना कि मैं आप घर में आराम से सो रहे हैं तो मैं ले रहा हूं. So all of us, it has to be a public-private partnership. I think if you're just waiting for Modi ji to clean this place up, I'm sorry, man, you're going to be waiting for a long time. We all got to clean this up ourselves, right? So I think this is a journey where we've all got to put ourselves. I mean, look at this. Railways is talking about hydrogen. Please, ये कब सोचा था 10 साल पहले? The change in thinking of the leadership. We've got to see. हम लोग सब क्या है? हमें आदत है कंप्लेन करने की. गवर्नमेंट ने ये नहीं किया, गवर्नमेंट ने. आपने क्या किया? पहले वो बताइए आपने क्या किया. So I think the government is changing. There is stuff happening. It is something that we've got to combine forces, and we've got to be able to use all technologies, whatever technologies. मेरे लिए तो जो भी इस कंट्री को क्लीन कर रहा है, मैं उस टेक्नोलॉजी के लिए प्रो हूँ.
Taking a cue from what they mentioned, Jayesh, I have a question for you, which you kind of partly, started to answer that in your comments. The heavy-duty trucks today contribute about 40% of road transport emissions. Yet the alternate fuel adoption, including LNG, remains low. So coming back to the point which Uday also made, what kind of issues do you see, and do you see an issue, the regulatory framework, or do you believe there should be better framework of providing incentives? Yeah, I mean, Jayesh.
So, I'll take a leaf out of what Mr. Narang was saying, that if you depend on incentives, then you're not making, then you're actually playing a waiting game. You need to come up with innovative solutions, right? So I've spoken of LNG and how it makes TCO sense. Now, when it comes to electric, and I'm talking of the high-end spectrum now, which is the heavy-duty trucks, right? That's the largest animal we've got on Indian highways. Now, that's going to be almost 3x the cost. But if you drop out the battery, you're going to make it affordable to the customers, right? Now, you start providing battery as a service, you start investing. You don't wait for people to put up the charging infra. You put up swap stations, you prove a case in point, you prove a use case to somebody, and then people adopt it. In India, I have seen that if you show business sense to people and you prove it to them that this is possible, you will see adoption. So what's lacking is basically initiative. We saw Siddharth talking about Indian Railways doing fuel cell. That's a great initiative that they have taken. So all the new OEMs who've come into this space, which is traditionally dominated by a few business houses, are actually taking great initiative. So I think more initiative that people take and given significant impact onto the environment, I think customers are going to see it. And if it's a viable TCO, we need to design innovative solutions so that they adopt it. That's how we'll gain scale.
And when you talk about, yes, I agree with that incentives, we shouldn't be playing the waiting game. But having said that, there are two kinds of incentives. One is fiscal incentive and one is non-fiscal incentive. And Jayesh, coming back to you again on this, for the lines, for the routes on which the LNG vehicles are already plying, if hypothetically the respective state government would like to come out with a diktat, okay, on this route, we would prefer that, okay, we will give this kind of an incentive to the fleet owners because the infrastructure is already in place for LNG fueling. So it is going to drive efficiency across this sector. No other segment is going to invest too much into that sector. It's going to be efficiency for all. I mean, non-fiscal incentives. What do you think?
So, what I feel in terms of a support that definitely government can do is about encouraging the availability of finance for these alternate vehicles. Because what happens is today the adoption is limited to a few who can manage that kind of financing. Now that's not available for all. All the traditional financiers have to still warm up to the alternate energy game. They're still playing the traditional game. So if there are support which come around finance, I think that will lead to larger accessibility of these technology and test trucks to a population which should be reached to.
Okay. Uday, I think you picked up the mic. You had a comment on that. Go ahead.
Look, I think that, I keep saying this is a marathon, not a sprint. And I think that a lot of work still needs to happen. I think we've got to revamp this whole system. I think what has happened with our transportation system, look at the highways, look at the railways. I just saw, I think the Shinkansen from Japan is getting ready. It's being testing right now. I was in Japan about 10 days ago, and I had an opportunity to talk to some people. So see what is going on overall in this country. I'm always going to say, I'm a complete optimist, and I'm optimist because do you have kids? Do you have kids? I want them to live in a really cleaner, greener, whether it is the environment, whether it's the water, whatever it is. हम इस country, इस देश को, third largest economy or third largest stock market तो बना ही रहे हैं. लेकिन उसके साथ the country needs to be, much, much better in quality of life. And I think, the work that Siddhartha is doing and Jayesh is doing, guys like me, little guys can learn from this and can pick this up. And I think, ये एक marathon भी है, लेकिन ये एक relay race भी है. So Jayesh जी से मुझे पकड़ना है, मुझे से सिद्धार्थ जी को पकड़ना है, हम सबको साथ में, सर आपको तो कभी छोड़ेंगे नहीं. I mean, you also are part of this. And I think all of you are part of this. So देखिए, I think new tech. एक चीज और है. We have the youngest population in the world. We have men and women who are thinking outside the box. Government की नौकरी, nothing against government. Government की नौकरियां करनी छोड़ो, अपनी कंपनियां बनाओ, नई चीजें करो, रिस्क लो, मम्मी डैडी की सुनने की जरूरत नहीं है, चैलेंज लो, फेलियर से मत डरो. And I think build new. I'm not standing for political office. I have no interest in that. But I'm very, very.
I think you will do great.
No. I'm really, really. I came back after 30 years, and I think we have an opportunity in this country to really shine. I'm not worried about China, US. Let them fight it out. I'm not bothered about them. Let's make our own country. Absolutely. And let's do this. And I think all of this in transportation. And if transportation is better, if mobility is better, I think we're going to lift a lot of people. And I think I'm again and again, I'm very excited so that railway is going to play a huge part of that.
And I think your optimism is not unrealistic, because we've already shown with digital payments, for instance. 10 years ago, it was almost nothing, right? Within 10 years, we have implemented it in such a great way that even a small vegetable vendor is, using those methods of payment. And the reason is that, the government maybe would not provide you incentives everywhere. But there are psychoanalytical tools now, the government and, different governments can nudge you towards things. So sometimes that nudge can be a bit of a push. So
you're absolutely right. The government can help you, which they did with, PMIE driving before that FAME 1-2. It gave the impetus. And I think you're absolutely right. And I'm agreeing with you. They should forget about this and give the trucks a real push.
I agree. Siddharth, staying with you, with your experience, what do you think? What do you think is the role of public transport, especially Indian Railways, in terms of green mobility vis-a-vis the private EVs? What do you think?
So the thing is, one of the biggest complaints that people have in India, if you look at it, is हमारे जो cities हैं, हमारे शहर हैं, they are not great, right? There's a lot of inconvenience. For pedestrians, there's no path, right? You can't walk. If you go to the metro, right, you get off the metro, it is not well connected with the railway station. You again have to carry a big luggage, you have to navigate a lot of obstacles to actually live in a city. But you want a city which has seamless transport, right? कि आप यहाँ से उतरे आपको दूसरी चीज मिल गई, आप वहाँ से उतरे आपको तीसरी चीज मिल गई. Only then will you be able to actually harness the potential of public transport. Until then, people will say, "Bhai, we'll invest money and we'll buy private vehicles."
And safety भी होनी चाहिए. एक सबसे बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट बात है, ये सब होने के बाद जो ट्रैवलर्स हैं, जो women हैं, जो रात को ट्रैवल कर रहे हैं, सेफ्टी होनी चाहिए. वो बहुत जरूरी है, बहुत ज्यादा जरूरी है.
Definitely. So public transport will play a great role in Uttar Pradesh, for example, जिस state को मैं belong करता हूँ. In a lot of cities, metro systems are coming up. We recently had the inauguration of metro system in Kanpur. So metro systems are coming up in a lot of cities and they are really helping people there. But now the challenge is how we are going to ensure that they are integrated to other forms of transport. Secondly, we are building at a very fast pace. And one thing which we have not really focused on is that building also gives rise to a lot of emissions, right? Air quality में हम fireworks देख लेते हैं, अभी पिछले सेशन में कुछ लोग क्रिमेटोरियम तक देख रहे थे. But I think ये सारी चीजें are minuscule when it comes to emissions, right? So we should have our focus at the right place. When I was working as a policy analyst in the Department of Transport in UK, one of the biggest challenges in front of HS2, which was from London to northern cities, was कि आप work site emissions को कैसे reduce करें. You are using big construction vehicles, excavators, forklifts, सब चीजें डीजल पे रन कर रही हैं. Then you are excavating, there are a lot of PM 2.5, PM 10 emissions. So when you are building, you are actually destroying your air quality a lot. So उस पे there is still a lot of research and a lot of things to be done. The biggest challenge is if you implement a lot of measures, the cost will also go up. So we need measures which do not really impact a lot the cost of your projects a lot, but that is a kind of cost benefit analysis which each and every project will have to do. But somehow we'll need to get in those innovative measures as well when we are building infrastructure in India, and we have to build at a great pace because China has built in the last 3 decades at a great pace, and we can no longer fall short in this.
Great point, Seb. Thank you, Siddhartha. It's so important to identify the key areas where the pollution is emanating from. Coming to you, Uday, I read your LinkedIn profile, and you have a very rich history of, very impressive profile. And I'd like to know about your experience, your journey, by when you started this, and about Omega Seiki, your company. You are
look. I was, I left India when I was very young. I went over to the States, and I thought.
The question would be, how would you differentiate yourself with other players today?
With other players, yeah. So just first, so for me, after 30 years on Wall Street, I wanted to make a change. I just wanted to make a change. I was sitting in my, since you spent some time in the UK, hedge fund alleys in Mount Street in London. So I was sitting in my office in Mount Street, and I said, I want to make a change. And I came back to Asia after being away for so long. India is a tough place to stay. But I thought, okay, but I wanted to make a change in green energy sustainability. I started building Omega Seiki Mobility pre-COVID, and we put a lot of money at work, and then COVID happened. And so, it gave me extra impetus to even build. You could see when all the transportation stopped, how great the environment became, right? So it gave me more impetus. We built OSM on only two things. Number one, I want to be hitting tier 2, 3, 4. I wanted to build a sustainable business. I didn't believe that, I see a lot of startups that started with us, and I can't call myself a startup because we come with a long history of industry in this country. I wanted to build vehicles for the masses. I think, हम लोग बहुत आज की डेट में ये टिकटॉक, ये Instagram और ये सब movie stars, ये बड़ी-बड़ी गाड़ियों में घूमते हैं, वो बहुत कम लोग हैं. We all feel great about it, but I mean, you want to make a change in the three-wheelers, in the two-wheelers, in the commercial sector. जहाँ ये लोग, this is what's important. That's what, the trucks and these vehicles make very high emissions. So I think I wanted to work on that. We wanted to work on new technology. We're like I compare myself to Zara. New products, new design, faster, quicker. और मेरा एक और goal था. All the big boys and girls in this game, इनकी जिंदगी खराब करनी है. इनको तंग करना है. तंग क्यों करना है? मतलब all the big players, नए products, नए design, नया cost और ऐसा cost निकालो. So उसमें एक ही ग्रुप की विक्ट्री होती है. अगर मैं प्रोडक्ट अच्छा बनाऊंगा, उससे अच्छा प्रोडक्ट अगर बजाज बनाएगा, और बजाज से अच्छा प्रोडक्ट अगर महिंद्रा बनाएगा, विक्ट्री किसकी सर? विक्ट्री किसकी? मैं आपसे क्वेश्चन पूछ रहा हूं, किसकी विक्ट्री? कंज्यूमर की. तो अगर कंज्यूमर की विक्ट्री है, उसमें ही मेरी विक्ट्री है, उसी में कंट्री क्लीन और ग्रीन होगी. एंड दैट्स OSM. I'm not here to just do round A, B, C, D or put it on the exchange. We'll put it, but I think this is where I'm driven.
Lovely points there. Jayesh, coming back to you, and in the interest of time, we're about 10 minutes to wind up this session. So I'd like, brief answers, and then I'd like to ask questions from the audience. What kind of ecosystem, ecosystem level collaboration, Jayesh, do you think is essential to accelerate the overall sustainable freight mobility in particular? I know we touched about this in a way.
So I think the key word that you use there is collaboration, and I think yes, that's the key. Unless multiple stakeholders collaborate together, and this is not just OEMs, financiers, infrastructure. If you talk of the LNG infrastructure, then the OMCs need to invest, expand into the LNG infrastructure. When it comes to charging solutions, the charge point operators and the OEMs themselves need to come forward and build these charging systems. OEMs per se need to come up with innovative solutions so that the consumer wins, and we have solutions which are adoptable at scale, right? And financials, of course, can't be hedging all their risks. They need to have confidence, help build the new India, and I think that level of collaboration, if it's there, then I think in the coming 5 to 7 years, I predict at least 30 to 40% of the vehicles on Indian highways would be with alternate fuels.
Oh, lovely. That's a great point. Siddharth, how do we reconcile the green goals, of the country, of the policymakers, with the push for private vehicle ownership? How do you look at that?
So, congestion is a big problem in India because we are a very dense country. And more congestion, even with alternative fuels, more congestion would mean more emissions. So that is a big challenge for us. So for that, the only thing is that what the consumer, you have to put the consumer first. What the consumer finds more convenient will eventually win. So if the consumer actually finds private vehicle ownership as to be very tedious, you get stuck in traffic, the operating costs are high, public transport is great. If the consumer is able to find public transport close to their home and they are able to seamlessly reach their destination, then I would think definitely public transport usage will grow. Look at Delhi, for example. When the metro, you look at any metro system, when you have a single line, it usually has very low ridership. As you improve lines, as you bring in more interconnections, automatically the usage grows. You would see that in Lucknow as well. The usage of Lucknow metro has remained quite low. And the reason is that for many years, we have had only a single line. So secondly, we need to put urban mobility at the center of urban planning in India. It is still not there, let me tell you. We need to bring urban mobility at the center of urban planning in city governance. Municipal corporations in India are still lagging behind when it comes to this. State urban development departments are really lagging behind when it comes to this. And secondly, they need to get on board railways, highways, waterways, bus, everything on a single platform. Even Niti Aayog for many years has been recommending that you need a common urban planning body in cities, which will get even the private sector and all agencies together. Right now, the railways would be having its own plans in a major city. The bus operators would be having their own future plans, and roadways would be having its own future plans without any integration between them. So this integration will actually, put forth public transport at a level in which the usage would improve, and eventually, for a very populous country like India, public transport is the answer.
Absolutely. I mean, the best utilization of limited firepower with everyone. And taking a cue from that, and Uday, over to you with your brief closing comment. Then we'll move on to the audience questions. With your multi-sectoral experience, Uday, how do you view the point which Siddharth just made about cross-industry collaboration as well? About, for example, and including energy space, the automotive, the OEMs, the finance, in terms of shaping the future of clean mobility? How stakeholders need to work together?
He's absolutely spot on. This is a combined collaboration. Trump-san says, let's make America great again. India can be made great. It was great and will be great always. I don't know, we don't need to be again. The point is, I think, a combination of road transport, highways, railways, waterways, a complete combination. But isme financing is extremely important. Whether आपका CNG, LNG, electric, कुछ भी है, we need that financing. I think there has to be some more government support in that. There has been work. मुझे बहुत अफसोस होता है कि आज भी वो lower income वालों को 17 to 20% interest देना पड़ता है. I think that's not fair. I think the big banks need to be part of it. कहीं ना कहीं, I'm not saying this is going to be the United States or Europe or Japan or Korea. China, we talk about China. The Chinese government is giving support in a massive way. So we can't compare ourselves there, right? 0% loans. I don't think that's going to happen here. But I think a combined effort, and I think in that combined effort, all of you also have to be a part. I think this is a combined national. I mean, जब हमारी war होती है तो मैंने देखा कितनी जल्दी सब लोग एक ही line पे आ जाते हैं. I think this is a war against an environment that is continually decaying, and I think we have to take it personally. अगर आप लोग अपने बच्चों की केयर करते हो जितना आप लोग अपने घर और एजुकेशन की सोचते हो, I think we can make a difference. But I think it has to be a combined effort of Jayesh, Siddharth, me, and all of us, and obviously government at the central, state, local level. And I think, what Siddhartha said, combined, हम लोग कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि transportation of our batteries and equipment through train, अब क्या होता है, ट्रेन से जब आगे जाना होता है, वो ना, that is not connected. So हम लोग बहुत कुछ करते हैं, कोशिश करते हैं. Last mile connectivity नहीं है.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Sorry, time's up, so I'll
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, in the interest of time, I do not want to stand between lunch and so one question, maybe the gentleman here. Let's have the gentleman here, and maybe please catch hold of them during lunchtime. We don't want to delay everybody's lunch. Maybe the gentleman here first. And please keep your question brief. That'll help. Thank you.
Regarding the electrification of the large trucks possibilities, as I heard to Mr. Nitin Gadkari, our Honorable Minister, on the Delhi to Jaipur highway, that the electrification mode of buses is the TOSA system, that is the trolley bus optimization, which he copied from Geneva.
Your question is addressed to whom?
Maybe Mr. Narang.
Okay, Mr. Narang.
Yeah, means in that bus, innovative bus charging system, that is the flashpoint charging points, where just in 45 seconds a bus will be charged en route. So by copying this particular fast 600 kilowatt, very high power charging points, is it adaptable across highways in India for heavy trucks, electric heavy trucks, to increase the electric infrastructure of the...
देखिए सर, देश बहुत बड़ा है. नितिन गडकरी जी, ऑनरेबल ट्रांसपोर्ट मिनिस्टर, बहुत ही अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं. हर जगह वो लगना पॉसिबल नहीं है. कहीं एरियाज में आपको LNG लगाना पड़ेगा, CNG, बट द आइडिया इज ग्रेट. आई थिंक आप नागपुर में तो जरूर आप गुजरात में देखेंगे, आप यहां भी देखेंगे, लेकिन नेशनली इतनी जल्दी लगाना, ग्रिड के पास वो पावर अवेलेबिलिटी, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, कॉस्टिंग, आई थिंक इट विल टेक सम टाइम. अगेन, इसको सबको थोड़ा सा टाइम लगेगा, लेकिन आई थिंक इट्स अ ग्रेट आइडिया. आई थिंक इट कैन बी इंस्टीट्यूटेड, बट इन अ मैस स्केल लाइक इंडिया, I think it's going to take some time, but it's a step in the right direction. And जयेश जी ने बोला था, कुछ भी कर रहे हैं, it's in the step in the right direction. एक चीज होगी तो और चीजें होंगी, ecosystem मिलेगा, village बनेगा. But I'm excited to see Honorable Transport Minister is doing this, and I think yes, it's possible, but it will take some time.
Thank you. One final quick question, and then we'll break for lunch. Please catch hold of the panelists on lunch.
Traditional trucks, diesel operated, you know very well, running in the big quantity on the road, which is totally unorganized sector of the transport. Now the question is, the rate of it, why the truck owners, they change to LNG? 9% interest rate, no low rate of interest, no subsidy, 28% GST is on that LNG truck. And diesel truck and LNG truck, both are having 28% GST. Can't we reduce it?
Thank you, sir. And so we'll...
the EV vehicle is 5%.
Thank you, sir. Jayesh. Yeah.
So I'll tell you, any support that comes through government is welcome, but things as they are today, if you look at LNG, LNG is already viable. I spoke about it. 28% GST, so the net difference is almost 25 lakhs between the cost of the truck. And if you're knocking off 15 lakhs on fuel per annum, as I told you, on the benefit on fuel efficiency and the fuel costing, then you have a year and a half, 2 years payback, which is why it will have a natural adoption. And we are seeing that grow now. With only thing which Mr. Narang also mentioned and I briefly touched upon is, if you have availability of finance, then the larger group of transporters and customers can be captured, right? So that's all.
Thank you so much. And thank you, sir. With this, we would conclude this session. Thank you for these stellar panelists. I thoroughly enjoyed moderating this. One thing which emanates from the points the three gentlemen made, the future of green mobility is not going to be built on just one solution, not just one fuel. It would demand a significant synergy between the policy, the public systems, and of course, private ingenuity. So thank you so much. Let's Give a big hand to IHW for also bringing these points on the agenda. Thank you.
Discussion. I now invite Ms. Kritika Agnihotri, leading sustainability at IHW, to felicitate our speakers and moderator with mementos. We begin with our speakers, Mr. Uday Narang. Mr. Siddhartha Verma. Mr. Jayesh Shelar. And our moderator, Mr. Suyash Gupta. Thank you.